Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. We are just starting our first session right now, and welcome to this online summit. I'll tell you a little bit about what to expect here. So, the summit, we're going to talk about memberships. So, the summit, we called it the business of memberships. This is a 1 day online summit where 8 membership experts are going to share all that they've got with you. Pretty exciting stuff. My name is Natalie, and I'll be the host of the summit today. The summit is organized by a company called Deposit Fix, and one of my colleagues is going to be a speaker right after this presentation. Stay tuned for that. Now, this is a live summit. That means that it's good and bad. Good thing is that we are live. There's live communication here. You can just, there's a little emojis there, so you can click on them to say hi to everyone. But the downside is something can go wrong. And this used to happen in the past. So if something does go wrong, be sure to report that in the chat. Would love to get it resolved. All right. And with that said, looks like we are all set. I have my very first speaker, and the first session is going to be about CRM. And we have Krista here to chat about CRM.
Well, hello. Welcome, everybody. So glad to have you here. And I'm so excited to talk to you today about the most important thing about memberships is how to manage your contacts. So that's what it's all about, right? Having members, and then you want to love them and care for them and give them all the great information and all the things that are important to be a member in your organization. So I have some ideas of how you can track your contacts in your CRM throughout the contact lifecycle stage. So with that said, if everybody's good to go, I'm going to present my screen. Share my screen here. And let's have it. There we go. We're good.
You're all set.
All right.
Take it away.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay. Oops, hold on one second here. Okay, so in this session, I'm going to talk about 5 CRM fields that are really essential for tracking sales and marketing return on investment for a meaningful sales pipeline. So I'm going to apologize in advance. My eyes are going to be going this way a little bit because I have some notes over there. So just as we go along here, go to the next slide. So I'm Krista from Ascend Business Growth, and I'm a HubSpot agency. Been using HubSpot for 10 years, been in sales. I come from a sales background. That's why I love CRM so much. So I set up CRMs for a lot of companies in my sales days, and then obviously more since I've been doing HubSpot for the past 11 years. And so as you know, every company must invest some kind of money and time into getting customers. You can't do business without it. Usually people will invest, or companies will invest about 7 to 8% of their projected gross revenue for a small business on sales and marketing. So that's kind of a gauge to think about how much do I need to spend on all of this. And how you spend that money, though, I mean, that could be a big chunk of change, right? So how you spend that is critical to your success. If you spend it in good ways, you're going to get better results. And sometimes we spend money, and I'm guilty of this too, and you don't get the results that you're looking for. But the only way to know if you're going to get a good return on your investment is to track the data. I mean, you can spend money all day long, but if you're not tracking anything, you don't really know what your success is. And so one area that companies do get tripped up a lot on is how to effectively manage their data. It can be a real problem. It takes special skill and a lot of different types of thinking to manage data effectively. And without well-defined systems and processes, the contact database that's filled with your members and people that you want to talk to and do business with and communicate with, instead of becoming an asset, it becomes a risky liability. So data can be complex, but with some simple ways you can make there's ways to make it more simple. I'm sorry, excuse me about that. Yes, we try to keep it simple with these 5 CRM fields that we're going to talk about right now. And these 5 CRM fields are going to help you indicate whether the prospects and leads that come into your database are members, where they are in the sales process, and if they're valuable to your company. And of course, you may need to think, how it can be a little bit complex on how to think about how to organize your data. So you might need to make changes as you go along. So you have to be flexible. All right. So let's dive into these 5 fields. I'll be really curious to see if you guys use these fields. We got contact type, life cycle stage, lead status. So if you're into HubSpot, these are going to sound really familiar. HubSpot doesn't automatically have a contact type in there. They have a company type, but not a contact type. So that's one that we add. And then they have their lead source, or they have their source fields, right? But they don't have a field where you can manually fill it in specific situations, which I'll explain more now. But these are the 5 fields that we're going to talk about. Let's start with the contact type. And all kinds of contacts come into your database, a variety of people, all different types. And you got prospects and members. I didn't put members on here, but members, customers, vendors, partners, resellers, employees, subcontractors. So all these people are coming into your database. So you need to think about how to customize your database to track these people in there. So that's the contact type. Set it up in HubSpot, contact type, and you're going to put in the different types of people that come in. And then when you want to do marketing, you can pull a list. You say, show me all my customers, show me all my members, show me all my vendors, my partners. And you'd be surprised that a lot of people don't do that, but it's really essential for tracking who is in your database. But that's just really the one step. Okay, so now I know I have 500 members, I have 10 vendors, 20 partners. That's good. That's a good first step, but let's talk about where they are in the buyer's journey or in the process of working with you. And, some people may have just learned about you. Who are you? I don't know. They subscribe to your blog or something like that. Some people might have already read all your website, be ready to talk to someone, ready to close a deal, or a seller's working on them. So there's a lot of variety in the different types of people in your database. And wait, I think something just happened. Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, I move on here. I'm moving on here. So tracking, I want to get to the life cycle stage and pass all those slides. Okay. If you're familiar with HubSpot, you're familiar with these, but I'm going to take a second and share with you how I describe these different life cycle stages and how I use them in the CRM. So you have a subscriber, and a subscriber is someone that they're in your database. Okay. No sellers working on them. They might be getting some emails and things like that, or your blog articles, but they're not being actively pursued in any way. They haven't really raised their hand in any major way. They're just people in your database. They're a prospect, but they're just not being worked or anything. And then you have a lead. And if you're familiar with HubSpot, you know that anyone that fills out a form is a lead. And then I would also put in someone as a lead if I went to an event or I met some people and at a conference or something. Those might be leads. And then you have your marketing qualified lead. So those are leads that meet certain criteria to be a customer in your database. So you may or may not have talked to them yet. And with HubSpot, there's workflows and lead scoring that you can set up to say, hey, if they're this size of business and this job title and this revenue and this many employees, or whatever criteria you want to say that makes someone qualified for you, you can set up workflows to automatically tag these people as marketing qualified. And then when the sellers come into the database every day to see who they should be calling on, you can give them this list of marketing qualified leads. Hey, these people meet our minimum criteria to do business with us. Let's go after them. And then the next one is the sales qualified lead. So that is where, this is how I think about it. The seller gets a marketing qualified lead. Maybe they get a list of like 10 marketing qualified leads. They say, yep, these look good. I'm going to call them. So as soon as the seller decides, I'm going to spend my precious time, my minimum, because time is is money. We all know that, right? So when a seller decides to try to get a meeting with someone or call someone or spend any time on any of these contacts, that's an investment for the company. So as a leader of a company, or even as a seller, you want to know, who are all the people I'm trying to get to? Who am I trying to actively pursue? And that's what I consider sales qualified. So if it's marketing qualified, to me, nobody's touched it yet. It's been said, this is a person, they meet our criteria, here you go. And then as soon as the seller picks up the phone and decides to start to meet with the person or whatever they're going to do with this contact, now they're sales qualified. And then, of course, you have opportunity, which is where the sales qualified lead says, yes, I'm interested, let's meet, or I'd like to learn more, or whatever criteria that creates a deal for you or an opportunity. Then that's that stage. And then obviously customer, I don't think I need to explain what a customer is. So those are the life cycle stages. So you could have anyone that has these life cycle stages would be a prospect. Now, if you're a vendor in your database or a partner, you know that HubSpot has, well, for a vendor, I would use other, right? Because they're not in your life cycle stage. They're not part of trying to do business with them in any way. So vendors or anyone that doesn't meet the buying criteria would be other. And then partners or resellers, you can decide internally how you want to do that, but they have the field evangelist. So that's another one. So this is really a good starting point. And I have an infographic that I'm going to jump. Well, I'm not going to jump to it. I'm just going to keep talking here. But I have an infographic on my website that lists the type, the life cycle stage, and the lead status, and has all the definitions. So we can follow up later. I'll put I have some links on my presentation. I think that the presentations are going to be available after. Oh, now regarding customization, you can't customize HubSpot lifecycle stages. It is what it is. So you can use it how it is. You can create your own definitions, but you can also consider the definitions that I just gave you for lifecycle stages. All right. Are you paying attention? Sorry, I just came off Halloween and I like scary clowns. So I just wanted to see if you were paying attention. Okay, so lead status. This is a super essential field. And again, I talked about it on the infographic, but this indicates the validity of the contact. So it's a prospect, it's a reseller, great. But maybe you talked to them like 10 years ago and they're not relevant to you anymore. So I'm going to give you some examples. So you would have a contact that they're a prospect and an opportunity, and they're in progress. Okay. So let's say this prospect opportunity, and you're talking to them, and all of a sudden they decide they don't want to do business with you. So now their lead status would be, it's not in progress anymore because you're not going after it anymore. It would be lost. Or you could say, move it to sometimes. So this is where the lead status, you really have to talk with your team and decide how you want to use lead status. But like in a situation like this, the opportunity said, nope, I chose someone else. I would do lead status as lost or nurture. So if you look at the spreadsheet or that infographic I have, nurture would mean I talked to them, but I never did anything, or they never moved forward with me. So that means when I'm pulling up my database, I can say, well, show me all the people that are a prospect and a lead that's nurtured. Then I know that those are the leads that I tried to get to, but I never did. Or I would have, like in this situation, it's a prospect and it's a lead. That's great, but what is it? This one's unqualified. So you got, maybe it would be a prospect lead that is open. So open means you've never done anything with it. So then the marketer or the sales enabler or your CRM administrator or your sales leader could give a list of, say, show me all the marketing qualified leads that are open. So then they'll know that there's 20 people in our database that meet our buying criteria that haven't been worked yet. Or the sales leader could say, show me all the sales qualified leads that are dropped. So that would mean that these are all the qualified leads that I tried to call 10 times, but then I never could get a hold of anyone. That So that you have to think about, how do you want to use lead status? And I do have some examples of definitions on that infographic if you want to use mine as a starting point. I've set up a lot of website. They've trained a lot of people, and this is the standard. So open, never been worked, nobody's touched it. It's just sitting there. In progress is actively being pursued. Unqualified, obviously. You don't want to have, they're never going to be someone you're going to want to do business with. So those are people that you would maybe exclude from like your email marketing if you want to be more targeted or things like that. Nurture, as I mentioned, is I called them, had a conversation, but I wasn't able to move them forward in the sales process. So even if a seller calls someone and they say, no, not right now, I'm not interested right now, I have a vendor, whatever. And they, ideally you'd want the salesperson to set a task to call them in like 3 months and 6 months to keep that relationship going, if it's a sales qualified or marketing qualified person or company or whatever member. But that's not always going to happen. Okay. We know that. So you could pull up a list as a marketer or as, someone to help that's helping sellers. Show me all the sales qualified leads that are nurture. And then you'll know that somebody had a conversation with them and that you can do some more marketing to them because they're not unqualified. They're not ready yet. For whatever reason, they're not there yet. So that's a really cool thing. And like I said, dropped is you call them 10 times, you never got a hold of them. There's never been a conversation. You can't keep calling people a million times. I mean, eventually you have to move on. So what lead status do you use in that scenario? And then sometimes I'll just put like not a prospect or not a decision maker, like a vendor, for example. I might say not a prospect. But I also might use like active or inactive. I didn't put that on here. It might be on my infographic. I like to use active and inactive for customers. So you have an active customer or an inactive customer or an active partner, someone that's actively driving referrals and leads for you, or an inactive partner. Same with like resellers, active or inactive. So that's a good lead status to add into your mix. And no longer there too. That's a good one as well, because people move and then you want to make sure that you exclude them off your email list. So if you have no longer there in your email marketing, you can filter out those people because you don't want to be emailing and it just adds junk into everybody's email box, which we don't want. Oh, I have it there. I have it there. Okay. And last but not least, yes, we need to talk about lead source and source details. And I'm going to hold on that. So HubSpot has their original source, source 1 and 2, which can give you a lot of insight into where these people came from. But here's the thing. If someone emails me and says, hey, Krista, you should call, here's an introduction to this company. It's a referral. Okay. And HubSpot's original source fields aren't going to tell me that. So it's super essential to create a lead source field. So even if you don't use it on every contact or every company, there are certain things that you're going to want to track. Like if someone called you on the phone, right? Then that's not going to show up in HubSpot. It will show up if you enter them in manually, it will show up as an offline source. But that person on the phone might say, yeah, I saw this webinar and I wanted to call you. You would never know that from HubSpot's original source fields. So now you can use a lead source field that you're going to manually create in HubSpot properties. Paid advertising, you can put whatever you want in there. The main things I would recommend just at a high level would be referral and then trade show and speaking event. What a lot of people do see is they, let's say you go to an event every month. So then your lead source would be like event 1, event 2, event 3, event 4, event 5. And then you keep doing this over years, your lead source field is going to get crazy and it's going to be really hard to manage the data. So I say, my recommendation is make your lead source like the bigger, just like a larger bucket. It's a referral. So then when you pull a report, you can say, show me all the companies I got as off referrals. See, and then you use the lead source detail field to say who referred. who, what campaign was this? What trade show was this? So then you can drill down more on the lead source field. It's kind of the same thing as a HubSpot original source and like drill down 1, drill down 2. This is just a way to manually do the same thing. All right, moving on. So a couple examples here. I think we got the gist. And maintaining data integrity. And so when you're in HubSpot, here's what happens. You're working on, I'm a seller and I'm talking to people, so I'm working on contacts, right? And then I'm filling out all the contact fields. I got every field. I got the life cycle stage, the type, the process, the lead source, everything. I filled it all out. And then there's the company. And the company's sitting over there all by its lonesome. And nobody knows about the company. So you'd never be able to pull, like, let's say on your contacts, you said it's a customer. You'd never be able to pull a list of companies that are your customer if that's not tagged as well. It can be a real pain. So use a workflow, and you have to think about how do you want the contact or the information to flow between the contacts and the companies. Okay, that's the main thing. Just think about that. How do you want the information to flow between those two objects or even through to deals? And then you can use workflows and you do a copy workflow. Copy this field to this field in these scenarios. So we use these copy workflows a lot to copy data back and forth around the contact and their company and their deal, so we can make sure the data all matches. And then you can also set fields based on certain criteria, and personas. That's one we do a lot. So persona we do based on job title. We create these like really fancy, complex workflows to say if they're a VP and all these different job titles and exclusions and stuff. But we can make it so that when someone comes into the database, as long as they have a job title, I can automatically tag their persona, which is super valuable because then you can say, who are all the owners in my database? Who are all the sales leaders? Also, you can do like, let's say you can set specific criteria. You can set an owner, a contact or company owner based off a region or whatever criteria you want to do. So think about using workflows for that. And then the manual process, and this is really where the rubber hits the road, and the sales leaders and the marketing leaders need to work really closely with the sellers. I love sellers. I'm a seller. I work with sellers, but they just don't love CRM and putting the data in. And they do the best they can, and they're busy and they're trying to close deals. So it's really good to have someone in the background to help them if they miss things. There's reports and dashboards you can set up in HubSpot, which we call cleanup reports. And it will tell you where the data is missing so that the sales leader can go back, or the marketing leader can go back to the seller and be like, hey, what's the deal? Can you just, this is missing data. What's the deal with this one? But what I really strongly suggest all sellers get in the habit of doing, or anyone in the database, not just seller, anyone that ever goes into the database. When you're working on a contact or company record, just please look at all the fields. Just glance through them. And if you see one that's wrong, fix it. People don't do that, but I'm saying if you do that, you're going to have a better, clean database. It doesn't take that long. You're already in the record. Just check it over real quick before you exit out. When you're creating new contacts or companies or deals, make sure that you're requiring the fields that are essential for your company, that they have to enter them in. Salespeople hate that. They get really annoyed by that sometimes. But that it's a job of the leadership in the company to make sure that the sellers understand why these fields are so essential, and to really get them engaged with inputting the data and understanding how it's benefiting them. That's what I realized about getting sellers to use the databases. You have to make it so that it's valuable to them and what they're trying to do. And then again, updating the key fields as you go through. You made a phone call. Oh, they don't work there anymore. Go and fill out that lead source field and say that they're no longer there. Don't just hang up and move on. And then if you see wrong data, fix it. And then the associations, that's another big one, because, at HubSpot, you got your contact and you got your company and your deal, and you want to make sure that they're all associated properly. So anytime I go into the company or contact record or deal record, I just double check, are the right people attached? Do I have all the companies? And is everybody marked the way that they're supposed to be marked? It takes maybe an extra 30 seconds or something, but it's totally worth it, because the last thing you want to do is to spend 20 hours trying to fix bad data in your database. So the ability to analyze sales and marketing return on investment really does depend on having a clear vision of who's in your database and what your relationship is with that person and how they align with your company. So taking the time to track this data will definitely set you on the path to success. And then these are some of the resources I have for you if you're interested later. And if you can, they'll let you know if you can get the PowerPoint or whatever. But these are the articles: 3 steps to track prospect leads and customers, the infographic. And then I have a video too on there. It's a blog, and it goes through what I just did here in a similar way. And then if you're interested, I have a couple other trainings about maintaining GDPR. And then you can get this information off HubSpot, like how to track and like customize your database from HubSpot's knowledge base. But if you want a video, somebody to walk you through step by step on how to do it, I have a couple videos on how to customize your record views and customize your properties and adding properties and how to add them to your, your contact and company and deal, and how to make it so that it's easy for sellers to come in. So that is how to, well, I guess real quick, if you like this, make sure you go to my website. You can follow me on LinkedIn or whatnot, subscribe to my newsletter. If you're interested in getting more information about this, I'm Krista Moon from Ascend Business Growth. And thank you so much, Natalie and Deposit Fix, for having me and letting me share this information with your audience.
Love it, Krista. Thank you so much. You brought so much structure into this. Love your infographic. Everyone go ahead and check it out on Krista's website. Love the essential CRM field that you've talked about as well, and the workflows that you suggested just to keep data clean. So thank you so much for bringing the structure to all of this. It's been exciting to have you here. And this session is going to be available as a recording after this summit as well.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone, we will see you in the next session.